What up, y'all? Thank you for tuning in to episode 4 of This Is Not Advice, titled, Who Should Submit? The Relationship Debate. So, we 4 episodes in, babe. How you feeling about all of this?
Well, for starters, I can't believe we're about to record episode 4. When we first started this, it was more about, hey, let's, try something out, see where this goes. We're just having fun. And with each episode, I just see the continued growth in the content that we're putting out there. And I don't know, it kind of feels therapeutic at times, exhilarating, nervous. Like there's some nervousness, some apprehension at times, because we are unlayering pieces of ourselves. We're being vulnerable and we're putting it out there, our story.
Yeah, I could relate to that for sure. And I think it helps us stay grounded in the title and the why behind the title of the podcast, This Is Not Advice, because we're really leaning into telling our story, right? And there's a level of vulnerability that needs to take place. And then there's the chemistry between us when we're having these conversations, because sometimes it may be unraveling old wounds, right? And then on the flip end, there's also remembering joyous moments. So it has definitely been therapeutic. It's kind of felt like a date night to some extent, right? Having conversations, important conversations that we have, but in a way we're holding ourselves accountable to having these conversations. And putting it out there publicly could be a little nerve-wracking at times.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're going to jump in, y'all. The title of this episode is Who Should Submit? The Relationship Debate. So can I tell you the definition that I got when I looked up submission?
Okay.
So in a modern healthy relationship, submission is a voluntary choice to yield, cooperate, and support your partner rather than a sign of inferiority or blind obedience. Mm-hmm. It is built on mutual respect, trust, and shared teamwork where both people value each other's strengths to make joint decisions. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about when you hear that definition that I just shared?
Well, I agree. I do believe submission is a choice, and it's a choice that I am making to place myself under your care, under your authority. And
my authority? What do you mean by that?
I don't mean, listen, okay? Authority is just the layer in which I'm like, this is an umbrella and you're my covering. So authority in that sense. I'm not talking about authority like you control me. You just read the definition. So we're not talking about control.
No, I'm asking
or
you.
dominance.
You said I have authority, so I just want to make sure for the audience.
Well, I don't mean authority in the same way as dominance, but okay. I just mean authority in the sense of like covering, a heading.
Can I say something in relation to that?
Yes.
So I think one of the biggest issues in relationships in general and just communication in general is a lot of times words are used in a conversation and people are defining them differently. And there's so many times where I'm listening to people debate and it may be something that I'm watching and I'm like, I wish they would just pause right now and discuss how do they define the terms that they're arguing about or discussing, right? And if I'm present in a conversation, that's something that I often do. I'd say, all right, well, let's define this term, or I at least want to know how someone else is defining a term, because we might be talking about two completely different things, but using the same term. So I just wanted to share that because
Yeah.
because when you said authority, I know what you meant, but then I'm like, wait,
But did you?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like I think I know what you meant. I should say, right? But
Uh-huh.
then you clarified for me. So I just think that's important when it comes to communication. So I know we're going to touch on that with the word submission
Mm-hmm.
a little bit later. But I'm sorry. I know I kind of cut you off. My
No,
bad.
you didn't, and thank you for that because it is important to have an understanding of our definitions because, like you said, we can be arguing and we're using terminology, but we define it very differently, right? So clarity is definitely needed in communication. We need to have a foundation. We need to have a base in which we're referencing so no one is confused. So, yeah, I appreciate that check in and you wanting an understanding or clarity on how I view, what was it?
Authority.
Authority. Yeah, thank you.
So does that mean that you have authority over me as well?
Um, so, so I So, what are we talking about in terms of how I see submission in a relationship setting, or I'm
Wait.
just plainly
What?
defining submission?
Well, you said authority.
Yeah.
So I just want to. I know we're gonna get to submission, but you use the term authority.
But
right?
I use the term authority in defining submission.
Oh, defining submission.
Yes,
Okay,
like
so
what I define submission as. So to me, submission is a choice, and I believe it's me placing myself under your care, right?
Okay.
I'm choosing to have myself placed under your care and your authority. And authority is being used not in the context of dominance, but more so your covering.
Right.
So in terms of a relationship, when it comes to submission, I do subscribe to an extent to a traditional I guess, version of submission where submission is often used in context of like head of the household, right? So like the man, woman, then children. So in terms of coverings in our household, you as the man, I am choosing to submit under your covering, which would be your authority, right? That to me, that is the role I am choosing to entrust that you will have the capacity to cover our family. And by covering, I'm referring to like leadership, right? Making decisions that benefit the unit as a whole. But in choosing to put myself under your care and authority, there has to be core components of what makes up me feeling comfortable to do that, right? So for me, those core components would be humility, would be trust, and would be love. So I would have to trust in the fact that I deem you as someone who is capable of being in a leadership role. And leadership does not mean dominance. Leadership means partnership. You are you are creating a space where we are partners.
So is submission a two-way street?
What do you mean?
So am I submitting to you as well under your authority? Or are you only submitting to me under my authority?
So I believe submission is a two-way street, although I do believe in very distinct roles in terms of the functionality of our household. In terms of the man, then the woman, then the children. And the man is serving as the covering of our home dynamic.
But he could still submit, so I can still submit to you, even though I'm the quote unquote head.
Yes, because submission, using my components,
Yes.
right, of it requires, in my opinion, a level of trust, a level of humility, and a level of love, right? Those are components to be shared between each other.
Right.
So then, yes, we are to submit to each other. And even from a biblical stance, right, if we want to take it there, the Bible does state for us to submit to each other. Out of reverence for Christ. Like, we're both supposed to submit, because ultimately, who do we as the unit submit to? All things derive from him, from God.
So it makes me wonder, when we think of this idea of the head, right? Mm-hmm. It's, if God is the head, right, and we're saying that we are followers of Christ, mm-hmm. and God is the head, then we both need to submit. We both need to submit to God, right, in order to be in covenant with each other and to be husband and wife. Is that inaccurate?
No, I don't think it's inaccurate. I think
so. Why does this idea of the man then the woman, does it mean like I'm the first line of defense?
Well, what do you think?
So what I think is that personification, right, of the man being the head, it kind of confuses me a bit, mm-hmm. right? I get that my role is distinguished, right, and your role is distinguished in terms of mother, father, right, husband, wife. I do believe there's some nuanced differences in terms of me being, when I say provider, it doesn't mean I'm the sole provider, but I provide a level of protection that may look a little bit different than the level of protection that you bring. But we're both bringing protection, even though it may look, feel, and sound slightly different. What, for me, it's just simple. It's simple. It's simply that we are both leading, and we may lead in different ways. Mm-hmm. We submit to each other because we're both submitting to God, and we've agreed upon that, and we have a common ground, which is our faith that guides us. So for me, I just like to keep it simple in that way. When I feel like, for me, when I hear, when I hear this, and maybe someone else can break down this metaphor personification of the man being head in a way that makes more sense to me. But I just keep it simple. Like, we both lead in different ways. We're both submitting to God, and we take it from there, and we understand that the things that we need in our marriage, we communicate those things with each other, and we both have strengths, and we both have areas for growth that may be a little bit different, but what I'm stronger in may be able to, it may lift the family up. What you're stronger in may lift the family up, and then we can help each other to grow in those areas where one might be a bit stronger than the other, but it's a collective unit working towards something greater.
So let me use an example, since we took it biblical, right? So Jesus, would you say Jesus is equal, less than, or greater than God?
I guess Jesus is God, right? In the flesh.
So then that would make him what? Equal, less than, or more than?
Equal.
Okay. So Jesus is equal, right? Equal to God.
Right.
And yet, what did he do? he submitted himself,
Right.
right, willingly to the Father's will, which is God, to serve others,
Okay.
right? So using that example, he's equal to God, as I believe a woman or a wife is equal to her male counterpart.
Right.
I don't believe you're more than. I don't believe you're less than.
Yeah.
I do believe we're equal counterparts.
Right.
And we both have our, like, similar to what you said, our strengths, our weaknesses, and that's what makes us strong as the unit we are, because we complement each other in a way that in areas you're weak, I may be strong in, and vice versa, right? But I, similar to Christ, in me walking this road to being Christ-like, I am choosing to submit myself to the covering of, like, you're my husband, so I believe you are the covering of our household. So I'm choosing to submit under that role, but in your role as husband or man, it does not diminish me as your equal counterpart.
So if I said,
and it's a submission to serve.
like, serve me dinner?
No. Why you say talking about your belly?
I'm just clarifying for the audience. The audience.
Are you hungry?
Look,
last episode you spoke about the cooking, COVID, all of that.
No, listen.
This episode you bringing up cooking again?
Listen, I'm just trying to make sure we talking about communication. So using certain words like serve. I'm just trying to make sure the audience is on the same page as they listen. So you're not talking about serving dinner.
I'm talking about serving for the common goals, or serving towards the common shared goals that we have for the efficiency of our unit.
Okay.
For our unit to flourish and to be the best that we absolutely can be. I'm serving towards the shared vision that we have for our family and our household.
Okay. So I think we should write this down. I think we need to type something out or create a visual or image or something that we can go back to and stay grounded in. Because we've spoken about this before, but I do believe that maybe we need a Brene Brown has this really, really good manifesto. I wish I had the name of it up right now. Actually, you know what? I think I can find it right now. Hold on one second. I know we're doing this on the fly. We live, y'all. We live. All right. So it's called the Wholehearted Parenting Manifesto.
Uh-huh.
And it's a great message, right? And I know we mentioned the Bible and the Word of God and how that centers us and guides us in our journey as well. And when I see something like the Wholehearted Parenting Manifesto and us thinking about our journey and our story, what are the tenets that will guide us in our marriage that's personal to us, right? Because you could give 10 people the Bible and you could get 10, you might give 10 people the Bible and get 30 different interpretations, right? So it's making me think that might be a great activity for us to do as a married couple is what are our tenets, our values, our foundational text that we've developed together that really helps us define our marriage, and thinking about how will that evolve over time, right? Because it's not going to stay the same forever, right? It's going to be updated over time. So yeah, that idea came up as I was listening to both of us speak. So when we talk about this is not advice, we often share stories from our lives, right? So I remember when I first met your dad. He pressed me lightly in the living room. It was just me and him. It felt like he was sitting in the center of the living room in a chair, but there's couches and other. I'm like, why is he sitting in the center of the living room?
He wants you to feel his presence.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I got to pull up in the middle of the living room and talk to him. And, you know, he's asking me these plans. What plans do I have for his daughter? Boom, boom, boom. I'll let you break it down a little bit more in depth, but I just wanted to paint that picture for everyone. And he had a different perspective on what I believe a husband is and should be, and the dynamics of a family and what that is and should be. So I'll let you take it from here. You break that down for the audience and give them the context of who your dad was around, like what age he was, where he's from, and all of that background context that might help them or help us paint a more vivid picture for that time in our life.
So I grew up in a very Caribbean household. My whole family is from Jamaica. Big up. Boop, boop, boop.
Yard, man. Come on. Yard. I'm a yardie's there.
Please stop.
You know I'm Jamaican too, and Grenadian.
No, please stop. Please stop.
We're
not going to do that.
I was at Stone Love headquarters.
Here we go again.
Jamaica. I was in Jonestown.
Listen, Kareem.
Eating chicken back.
That's another episode. And we're not even going to play that episode.
But you know I was in the gully.
Right.
Just let the audience know. That's a fact.
It will never
That's a fact. I was in the gully. Just let them know I was in the gully.
Listen, are we here to...
Okay.
Am I here to give the background?
I just want to verify for the audience. I was out there. Okay. Certified.
Yeah. Right. Certified is the correct word. So, so I grew up in a very Caribbean household. And to give context, both of my parents they were born in the 50s. So, they are very traditional. They were very ingrained in the culture. Very proud individuals. So my dad being very traditional Jamaican, and as you know, my religious background from last episode, I'm Seventh-day Adventist. So not only is he a black man, proud Jamaican, but also very religious. So he has all of these layers or components that make him the person that he is. And being a Jamaican man, a lot of the times, my experience is they tie their identity to being providers for their family, and providers in a sense of finances. So my dad went out to work. My mother at the time was a stay-at-home mom. She would take care of myself and my siblings while my dad is out there working, bringing back home the money to share out into the entire household, pay bills, etc., right? And in the last episode, when I shared that my dad battled cancer for 25 years in and out of remission, so imagine a man who has tied his entire identity into being a financial provider for his family, but then he gets really sick and he's no longer able to be a provider for his family in that sense. So my dad was no longer in a position where he could work. And then my mother went back to school and to become a registered dietitian. And then she was now in the role of being a breadwinner, essentially, for our family. So I believe my dad now looking back, what became bitter and became resentful of the fact that he could no longer fit in that role of being a financial provider for his family. And yes, he did. He didn't know how to adjust to this new way of normalcy, right? He didn't like the fact that his woman was out there working and bringing home the money for the family. He felt like my mom attitude was changing. He felt like she was no longer fulfilling her duties or role as woman of the household. So my father would attach, I guess, using submission, right? So we're speaking to submission. His view on submission is a woman is not an equal. Let's keep it real. She's not an equal to a man. The man must have the final say. The man must make the final decisions. The man this, the man that. And in my experience or through my lenses, I grew up in a household where my dad is trying to still very much assert himself and make himself appear uber masculine, because he feels his masculinity was stripped away from the fact that he could no longer be a provider for the family.
That's deep. That's deep. And when he pressed me and I got to know him a little bit better, I knew he was going through a lot, and I did recognize that your mother's love was more expressive towards me. And I know you mentioned to me that he thought I was too laid back, right? And and when you mentioned that word masculinity, right, one of the things that, and I'm still blind to some of my ways, I'm sure, right? There's this idea sometimes of what masculinity looks like. And in many cases, that comes back to that word submission to me, is that there's this idea that the woman must stay in her place. Right. And there's a specific role that a woman is supposed to play, and then the man is supposed to play a certain role. And I think that right there makes people become caricatures to some extent, where it's almost like a factory line of, speaking from a man's perspective, of a bunch of men mimicking other men who appear to be maybe tough or aggressive or outspoken, and there's this idea of what being a man looks like. And a lot of times those characteristics are not aligned to effective communication. The multiple components of love, care, nurturing, because I believe men can be all of those things as well. But sometimes those words are not tied to masculinity, and it can become difficult for a man to unlearn many of the things that he may have once believed it encompassed to be or to become a man. And speaking from my upbringing, there's a lot of people I once looked up to that I no longer look up to, in the sense of I have a great deal of respect for them, but I don't look at them as the guide for how to be in a relationship or how to be with women or to treat women. And I'm saying that as somebody who still has a lot of growing to do. But when you're growing as a man, for me, it's been important for me to recognize who are the people that can mentor me when it comes to that specific aspect of my life, because I do think that it could be difficult as a young black brother growing up to have examples of men who are not afraid to break away from what has been traditionally known as masculinity and thinking that it has to look a specific way. Now, I do believe everybody's relationship dynamics can be different. I don't think there's one way to be in a marriage. However, I do think it's important for men to recognize that there is a level of work that we need to do so we can be in partnership with our wives and communicate well with them. And I think it's important for our wives to do the same.
So I was going to speak to provision, right? Even in that wording, provision could mean so many different things. So for my dad, he sought provision in finances, but he could have provided emotionally, which he didn't, right? He could have provided spiritually. He could have provided emotionally, mentally, whatever, right? The list can go on and on. But it's interesting to me in my adult lens now to see that he could only define himself through finances, provision through finances. Like, that's what he deemed and held on to, this idea of being a man. And, you know, when...
Sorry, that term right there, I think is so important. The idea of being a man, right?
Right.
Because it's just really an idea, right? Like you tell yourself, sometimes you fight against your own, there's this term, right? Guys use bros before hoes, right?
Whoa, where are we going?
No, I'm just saying,
Okay.
that's not the only, I'm just saying, that's not the only term, but that's, I think, one of the more universal terms, right? Like bros before hoes, right? Like you growing up and the guys who spend more time with the girls or their girlfriend or, growing up, it's kind of, it takes a lot to be the first one out the crew to go off and be in a serious relationship, or the first one to be married, right? Or the first one to not want to feel like you're letting your boys down, right? That's a thing, right? And it's that idea of being a man, right? A lot of times that is so skewed. And I hope that we are able to, through our storytelling, for ourselves first, to recognize like what are some of those characteristics or characteristics that might be blocking us from continuously growing.
So what I was going to say to, I guess, piggyback off of that, right? So when my dad was asking you all of these questions, or he had his reservations of you because you, in his head, didn't match the identity of a man that he would have liked or preferred for his daughter, right? But what he didn't recognize was that you were able to provide for me spaces of comfortability, spaces of empowerment, spaces of assurity. Like, you saw me when no one really saw me. People have ideas of me, I let them run with it, whatever the case may be. But you were the first man that I ever felt safe, 100% safe, being my true, authentic self. And that is a type of provision that I couldn't even ask for anything more than what you've given me thus far, right? And I'm a little heartbroken that my dad isn't around to see you be the man that I knew you would be. I mean, yes, we've had our ups and downs. We've spoken about this in previous episodes. And I mean, over the course of time, we'll continue speaking on our ups and downs and sharing more of our story. But you epitomize a man who is well rounded in what I believe a man should be and how a man should treat their woman. And I trust you. That's why I feel safe to make the choice to submit myself to you as my husband, not in the context of you dominating or controlling me. So I want to make that very clear.
Whoever,
I want to make that very clear.
Some people might not know you. If anybody knows you, they know you're not going for that.
But I do trust you to be the head of our household in the context of being the covering. We all have roles. So for me, I'm okay with you being in the role of being that leader of our household. But it does not diminish my capacity or my contribution to the good of this family as well.
Right. Yeah, thank you. And you know that it feels great to hear you say that, and I submit to you as well, understanding that it's for both of us a voluntary choice. And submission, I'm submitting to cooperation, I'm submitting to teamwork, I'm submitting to a healthy relationship, right? And understanding that we are in this together. And that word submission is often misused, and it's often utilized in a way that can make men feel less than. If you say, oh, I'm going to submit to my wife, well, both people can submit to each other, right? And ultimately, we should both be submitting to God. Right. And I believe that that's the ultimate form of teamwork. And just think of Kobe and Shaq, right? They're two amazing players, and they feed off of each other. And they have to work together and figure out, okay, well, maybe one day I'm going to take one game I'm going to take the last shot, or another game you're going to take the last shot. It all depends on what's needed in the moment. And I love sports analogies when it comes to just anything. You've used them to help me understand aspects of our relationship.
Language, right? Taking it back to language.
To language, right,
and making you or helping you, assisting
me
to understand each other, right?
To understand each other. And because we're working together for the family to win.
To thrive.
Right? To thrive.
Yeah.
For us to thrive. And that can't happen with one person wanting to be the sole leader. Because leadership is so dynamic. It can't exist just in one person.
Nope.
And even when we think of beyond families, right, just in the world in general, whenever leadership is concentrated into one person, it never goes well. And,
because that's not leadership, that's dictatorship.
Right.
And you're trying to control. Leadership encourages teamwork, encourages collaboration.
Right.
That is necessary in order for anything to run efficiently and effectively and to run smoothly,
Right.
And by running smoothly doesn't mean we won't have hiccups, but in us working collaboratively, guess what? We'll be able to brainstorm, we'll be able to decipher what didn't work, what worked, and take out the parts that didn't work and improve on the parts that did.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And, this is not advice. Like we always say, this is just our story. This is how we do things. And we would love to hear from y'all. Drop a comment. Leave us some feedback on this episode. We want to keep these conversations going. But we thank you. If you've made it this far in the episode and you're still listening, we are extremely grateful for you. And we're going to keep this conversation going because there's so many layers to it. But peace out, and we're going to see y'all. What episode is next?
Episode 5.
Episode 5, y'all. Peace. Enjoy the rest of your day.
See ya.